So the G, the initial G, was good for it to grow. And you can keep that forever. That was inevitable as this new constraint developed. It's pretty bad. And then another constraint developed, which you all know, no initial R in that. So Arandi, that is Arandi. Now some people would say, well, how do you know about pre-fast allowing such clusters? Of course I don't know, but I'm a linguist and I'll tell you examples where such constraints developed. For example, in the European, in Sanskrit, you have clusters of pre. You have SGR, SKR at the beginning of words. In Middle Indic, in Pali, you have only a single cluster instead. And Hindi is a feature. In Middle Korean, clusters of two were allowed at the beginning of words. In modern Korean, only a single cluster. So it is normal for such constraint to develop. And of course it goes the other way around. Modern math tolerates clusters of two again. So the old constraint isn't working anymore. So these constraints come and go. So I think there's a bit of an explanation. I don't think it was accidental that you have Grande and Andi side by side. It fits very well. Latin casus, cheese. This word was only in Latin. It was borrowed, of course, into English, cheese, German, Käse, and so on. But it's not in European. So where does it come from? Well, if you remember about cheese, you'll find in the Wikipedia that you need plenty of salt. The word salt in the German encyclopedia occurs 3 times in the description of cheese. So cheese actually is the salty one. And if you take the past word, it's an old word, gassy, or salty. It's an old word because E is not productive anymore. So it's an adjective formation that's no longer productive. You take gassy into Latin, you get gaseous with a Latin termination, the salty one. And that's what cheese is, the salty one. And of course, in fact, too, the rules for cheese are based on gas, the rules for salt. So that's very well and quite happy with this etymology. And so is the person to whom I gave this etymology as a present in this text of Edward Seeber, the greatest etymologist of our time. Also the word for Zenne. Zenne, that's the mill worker up on the farms in the mountains, the alpine mountains. And I'm trying to relate it to Bernard Kästner's note. The egg could be prefixal, I think it was, that's not my idea, because there's that sen there, sen for Kästner there, without the prefix. And if you take this word of sen from pre-Basque into Indo-European languages of the Alps, which preserve only in the Alps, you get this word for the milk worker, over and seminar, and the others. And I said to Edward Seeber, the etymologist, this etymologist isn't so good, is it? He said, no, it's worth talking about. It's not so that it's useless. He was happy. In English, we have the word bush, also bush, and reconstructible after busca, busco. The medieval Latin, not Latin, but medieval Latin, so it's not a Latin word, not in European, has buscus, boscus, Italian boscus, Spanish boscus, French one, and so on, meaning wood, forest. There are 2 reasons why it's not in European. First, it occurs only again in Romance and in Germanic, that's A, and B, the words do not fit together under Grimm's law. If it's Romance Puskus, it should be German Puskus, and not push, and not push. And if it's the other way around, then in Latin Romance, the word should be push. So they don't fit together. So they are Romance. And that's dominant in Latin, but nobody knows where from. No. I think I do know. The root bus, meaning tree, has been identified in the Basque and Northern Spanish economy and is found residually in the Basque vocabulary. Take this from a dissertation by Fritz Galloway, who's here at the bottom there. It's not a very good illustration. The word is really lost in that. But it's still visible in this material. Now, many people ask a diminutive suffix con, which is the same as Aquitanian con in the inscription, and Basque has a diminutive suffix toc, which is the same as Aquitanian con. And of course, that one is still alive in words like Nescato. Okay, if you add these suffixes to the constructed hegemon bus, you get buskon, little tree, which gives us buskon, bush. And if you add the ton, you get buston, and you get a related word, busto, meaning grass. So these words have an explanation within this theory. And if you look at modern Basque, what is the word for bush in Basque? You have Suhaishka. You write with a diminutive suffix from Suhaishka tree. Thus the bush in Basque is still the little tree, even nowadays. That fits with the conception. Now at the airport, now it's all new, but when I went here for the first time, it was only at the airport going along to Santiago. And I read right underneath in this gate. And I thought, as a German, immediately, well, the word gay has no explanation. It's only Germanic and nobody knows where it comes from. And of course, I'm an ardent reader of Michelena books, and I remember immediately that Michelena reconstructs for ate, English, and all the hatte, with a lot of the initial H, owing to its elimination. Two aspects, hatte, in a row, being very, very good phonology for that. So he reconstructs hatte. And now, of course, I know that in Basque, initial G is often lost. Here are examples from Ovidel, you get OBL, you have Ashtiga and Gastiga, side by side, and so on. So I thought, well, this initial H from Hatte could come from Gatte, or it could be Gatte. And so I proposed, and I think it's just something that's pretty good terminology, that Germanic Gata, German Gasse, meaning a narrow street, Gasse, so Dutch Gat, meaning the hole, but the hole in the ground, again, Gasse, and then in the gate, meaning the door, are long words from the form of that. That's from long words. It's the only explanation that there is. Nobody else has anything like this. It may be wrong, but it's not enough. This meeting is pretty good. Okay, let's talk to Tottenham. So, in Germany, not far from where I live, or about 10 kilometers, there's a river named Lech, an important river in southern Germany. And from the material that we have, one can reconstruct that in all European, the river should have been called Lechia. The ship comes from Cape to the second continent, in German, only in Irish. Lechia. Now, in a dissertation, in an article, a student of mine said, well, look, there is that leg in Lega, meaning gravel. Yeah? And now if you add I to that, you know that adjective suffix, in Gassi, and it's old, you get gravels. And you add the termination that you find in virtually all toponyms, or river names and place names in Northern Europe, you get Legia, which would mean something like the gravelly one. Now it is the gravelly one. It comes from the Alps and goes into the plains. Look at this picture. The right-hand side, the gravel island. Gravelly island. There's a book where the gravel even occurs